Hello, fellow card people. This is Upper 90 Teacher here with you today to show you some of the artists that are going to be at Gen Con's art show in 2025. If somehow you don't know, Gen Con is North America's largest tabletop gaming convention and is run in Indianapolis, Indiana every year. This year, we have a lot of fantastic artists that are going to be there, so many of them that I've had to split this video up into several smaller chunks. For this first video, we'll get through artists that have the last name starting with A through C. I'll be providing you with some of the artists' main pieces that they've done for various card games, and also giving you a list of all of the cards that they've done that I've been able to find anyway. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I've missed. Let me know in the comments if you know of something that I missed for any of these artists. One thing to note is that these are artists going to the art show portion of Gen Con. There are some artists who actually register as a general exhibitor, and they're not actually in the art show. Many artists offer signatures on cards, and they charge different prices. Some of it depends on how much effort they put into the signature. For example, some of them do shadow signatures, where they do 2 colors. Some of them do sketches on your cards, and different things like that. If you want one of those services, do expect it to be a little bit more expensive. Also, some of the bigger names are going to run you a little bit more for signatures. Most artists do charge something, but some of them are relatively cheap. Most of these artists will also have other products for sale, things like prints, originals possibly, or sometimes they can also get the artist proofs, which are essentially copies of the card that don't have the game backing on the back side, so artists can choose to do sketches or other things to make that kind of special for you. And with that, let's go ahead and get into our artists and their work. And apologize if I pronounce any of these names incorrectly, both for the artists and for their cards. I try my best, but I'm sure I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes. The first artist is Zara Alfonso. She has quite a few Magic the Gathering cards, and many of them have some really cool treatments and special versions. Her total count of Magic cards right now is actually 19, and includes some really cool ones. For example, there's Preacher of the Schism, which is actually a store championship version, which is pretty awesome. There's also Vivian Reed in Borderless, as well as Mana Foil, and some other really cool things like promos, extended arts, and several other kinds of cards. I really love how she's able to put movement and light into all of her pieces that just really makes them pop and has that real classic fantasy card game vibe to it. I would love to see Zara continue to do some card art in the future, and including for my favorite card game, Warlord. Now, going into all of Zara's work here, one thing to notice, I did tell you that she has 19 cards, which is true, but she actually has one card that has 2 pieces of art on it. So up here, the first one is Bereaved Survivor and Dauntless Avenger. Those are actually one card. They're just opposite sides of the card. On this first page, another cool one to notice that maybe we'll get some interest in getting signatures is Nahiri's Warcrafting. Pretty cool looking magical spell going on with swords flying around, which is pretty fun. And then on the next page, Shortbow looks super cute. Lots of people might like that one because of the popularity of that set for sure. Slip Out the Back, I think, has some really cool kind of modern looking art on that one. The full art Spirit Token is another one that's gorgeous, and I think it would be really cool with her signature on it. So some really great pieces here that if you're a fan of Zara's work, you might want to get her to sign for you. Now moving on to our next artist, we have Mark Behm. Mark is pretty prolific, especially when it comes to Magic. He has 56 Magic cards, including one that actually is a double card. It has 2 pieces of art on that front side, so 57 pieces for Magic. There's also one Star Wars Destiny card credited to him. This is one that I think I probably have missed some cards of. I think there's some other games or things that I'm missing. So again, let me know in the comments if there's something you know of that I haven't found. Mark's work is super detailed, and he's really good at the dark, kind of gritty scenes. He's done a lot of different goblins, and you can kind of tell from piece to piece that they have like a theme. They feel the same, and you can tell they belong to Mark, even if you see them without the attribution on them, which is kind of nice. He's got some really big pieces that are pretty popular, famous cards, as well as he has one serialized card that's been issued to him. Smothering Tithe is one of his more expensive cards, and then we have Cinder Vines, which is the serialized card. Since he has so many pieces, we're going to be going through several pages of his work. Feel free to pause if you need a little bit longer to figure out which cards you have or don't have in your collection. I'm also including a link to a spreadsheet, which will give you links to databases that show the card images and different versions, what sets they're in, things like that. So looking at this first page of Mark's work, Cindervines is an option, but you don't necessarily have to get this serialized version. There's several versions of that look really cool. I really like having tokens that are signed. I think the construct token would be a really cool one, just because it's got a little bit bigger surface area to see that image and to have a signature going through that. On this next page, I really like the animals that we have here. Contraband Livestock, I think, is a fun one, as well as the Crafty Octopus. Both of those have really detailed art, and the Crafty Octopus one just has all these funny little things in it. Now we get into a few of the goblins here on a single page. I think this goblin token with that cool art shape on it would be a great one to have signed. Grothama All-Consuming is a really unique piece that I think is also a fun one to look at. On the next page, Humming is just adorable. Horvath's Fury is an epic looking card. Dragons are always a big hit. Continuing with my animal theme here, I really like the Polyraptor on this next page, as well as the Prosperous Bandit token. Both of those, I think, have a lot more detail than you give them credit for at first glance, which makes them interesting enough to have signed for sure. And finally, to Mark's last magic page, I told you he was prolific. On this page, I really like the Thornvault Forager, especially because it has a full art treatment, and that set is just so adorable that people love it. And last but not least for Mark is his one Star Wars Destiny card, Shakedown. I never got a chance to play Star Wars Destiny myself, but all of the pieces that I see for it are really impressive, and this one is no different. This would be a really cool one to bring because he probably gets a little sick of magic cards, to be honest. Okay, up next is Bruce Brenneise. Bruce is famous for his world building skills, so his work is kind of a little bit more zoomed out. You get to see a lot more landscapes and a lot of really cool things. Because of this, he gets more like lands and things like that. He's got 27 magic cards currently, and there's some bangers in here. On this first page, we've got Breeding Pool is probably one of the bigger ones, as well as Fabled Passage. Both of them have special treatments, so pretty cool ones to get signed. On this next page, I really like the pun of Paradise Lost, so that one's kind of silly and a cool one. I also really like the space themes here, which is something you don't see too often in Magic. And then for the last page, you've got these two really lovely swords that have fantastic art in the background as well as the swords themselves. And then you've got this pirate ship, the Belligerent, which I think is also really fun, and it has a full art treatment. So any of these would be fantastic to bring to Bruce and have him put his markings on them for you. These would be a great thing to add to your collection. All right, now we have Christopher Burdett. Christopher is one that I'm positive that I've missed some different games that he's illustrated for, or at least some different cards in these games. Chris has done art for several different franchises, including the Game of Thrones and Magic, L5R, Star Wars, and a few others. So we'll go through some of these and check out some artwork from him. All right, we'll first look at his Game of Thrones pieces. He got 3 dragons, which is pretty awesome. I really like these second two. They have space in their text box, so he could sign down there without obscuring the art at all, which is nice. Now we've got a couple of pieces from Arkham Horror here. These are kind of weird to me because the art's on the bottom, so it throws me through a loop for a second, but it's also kind of refreshing and cool as well. So these might be some fun ones to get a signature on as well. Bruce also did 4 pieces for a game called Kaijudo, which I'll be honest, I'd never heard of. Looks kind of like a cool mix between fantasy and sci-fi. If you are a Kaijudo player, let me know a little bit about it in the comments, because like I said, have no idea what this game is, but the art looks really fun. Bruce also did 10 pieces for Legend of the Five Rings, which is obviously one of the classics of CCGs out there. Really cool giants and monsters that he's created here. The Asian influence mixed with the fantasy themes of this game always just catch my attention when I look at these cards. Now looking at Bruce's Magic cards, He's got Bribe Taker here, which has an extended art, which is always a great thing to have for a signed card. We've also got Coveted Peacock, which is really pretty colorful card image there, as well as the Egg token. I always like seeing tokens signed. This next page has a bunch of creatures, which I always think is fun. We've got the Lathnu Sailback that I really like, largely because I like dinosaurs. My son wants to be a paleontologist, so that's one of the ones I noticed right away. Also, the Shimmerwing Chimera has some really cool art. The colors on that just pop. And since he had 21 magic cards, Stinging Lionfish gets its own page, but it's also got a really gorgeous color palette here that's really nice to see. And Bruce did just have one Star Wars Destiny card, which is a cool one. It's got this Mon Calamari on it. And that brings us finally to our last artist on the list, Chris Casciano. Chris has this really cool realism to his art that really brings in a lot of medieval plus fantasy vibes, which is really nice. He only has one card right now that I was able to find, at least. This is for a Game of Thrones. It's Rickon Stark. And that wraps up the A through C list for the card artists going to the Gen Con 2025 art show so far. Please check the spreadsheet to double check if you need to look at any of those cards. I'll also be updating that if people let me know about cards I've missed and things I've missed. The video I won't be able to update, but the spreadsheet will be updated. Make sure you subscribe so that you'll get notified when the next list comes out, which will be D and E. Also, make sure you share this with all of your card-loving friends as well. I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.